Have you ever noticed that a baby who screams the moment a perfectly kind, perfectly well-meaning stranger reaches for them will immediately melt into a soft, boneless heap of contentment the second one particular person walks into the room? Not just any familiar face, not just someone they have seen before, but that one specific person whose arrival visibly changes the baby's entire body, their breathing, their expression, their whole interior weather. And have you ever wondered what the baby knows about that person that you do not? What signal they are reading that adults have long since stopped being able to detect? Why a creature with no language and no conscious reasoning and no way to articulate a preference has already developed preferences so strong and so specific that they can fill a baby with joy or level them with grief, depending entirely on who is standing in the doorway? That question, why babies love certain people with such fierce, inexplicable, almost irrational devotion, has fascinated psychologists and neuroscientists and parents for generations. And the answer reaches far deeper than most people expect, down past the obvious explanations of familiarity and feeding and time spent, down into the architecture of the nervous system itself, into the biology of safety and the ancient evolutionary logic of attachment. And what it reveals when you finally see it whole is not just the story of why a baby reaches for one person and not another. It is the story of how love itself works at its most fundamental and its most human level. To understand why babies love the people they love, you first have to understand something that sounds almost too simple, but is actually one of the most profound ideas in all of developmental psychology. Babies do not bond with the people who are around them the most. They bond with the people who make them feel safe, and safe in the language of the infant nervous system is not a vague or abstract feeling. It is a precise physiological state, a measurable set of conditions inside the body that include a regulated heart rate, a settled nervous system, a cortisol level that has come back down from the spike of distress. And the people who consistently produce that state in a baby are the people the baby's brain begins to file under one of the most powerful categories in all of human neuroscience, attachment figure. This distinction matters enormously because it means that the most loving, the most devoted, the most frequently present person in a baby's life will not automatically become the baby's primary attachment figure if they are not also the person who most reliably and most sensitively responds to the baby's distress. Because what the baby's brain is tracking constantly and with extraordinary precision is not time and not affection in the abstract. It is contingent responsiveness, which is the specific, reliable, tuned-in quality of noticing when something is wrong and doing something about it, of reading the signal and answering it, of being there, not just physically, but emotionally and specifically, in a way that actually changes how the baby feels inside. John Bowlby, the British psychiatrist whose decades of work gave us attachment theory, described this system as a biological survival mechanism of the first order, one that was shaped by millions of years of evolution in a world where an infant who could not quickly identify and cling to a protective caregiver would simply not survive. And so the infant brain was built with this detection system running at all times, scanning the environment for the person who most reliably means safety, preparing to orient toward them in moments of stress, to use their proximity as a resource for regulation, the way an adult might use a deep breath or a quiet room. Except that, for a baby, the resource is always a person, always specific, always the one the nervous system has learned to trust above all others. What are the qualities, specifically, that make a baby choose one person over another to fill that role? The research is rich and sometimes surprising, and the first factor, the one that most people guess correctly, is responsiveness. But the depth of what responsiveness means in this context goes far beyond simply picking the baby up when they cry. Because the research of developmental psychologist Mary Ainsworth, whose strange situation studies in the 1970s became some of the most replicated and consequential findings in all of child psychology, showed that what matters is not just whether a caregiver responds, but how. Whether they read the specific signal correctly, whether they respond at the right intensity, whether they are able to tell the difference between a baby who needs to be held and a baby who needs stimulation and a baby who needs quiet, whether their responses are paced and tuned to the baby's own rhythms rather than to the caregiver's needs or anxieties. And babies, despite having no words and no conscious analytical framework, are reading this quality of attunement with a sensitivity that is genuinely astonishing, picking up on the difference between a response that truly meets their need and one that is technically present but emotionally mismatched, and filing that difference in ways that directly shape who they reach for and who they turn away from. But here is the first twist that surprises almost everyone who hears it. Proximity and caregiving are not the same thing as emotional attunement, and a baby can be fed, changed, held, and technically well cared for by a person whose emotional presence is somewhere else entirely, whose face is still and neutral rather than animated and expressive, whose voice is flat rather than melodic and responsive, whose touch is efficient rather than warm. And in the case, the baby's nervous system may be receiving physical care while simultaneously registering something that is, at the neural level, a form of social absence, a gap where the emotional connection should be. And this is one of the reasons that very busy, very loving parents sometimes discover with a pang that their baby has formed their strongest attachment not to them, but to a grandparent, or a nanny, or another caregiver who spent fewer hours with the child, but was more emotionally present during those hours, more facially expressive, more attuned to the particular frequency of that specific baby's needs. And the discovery, though it can sting, actually points towards something beautiful about the intelligence of the infant attachment system, which is that it is not fooled by quantity, it is looking for quality, specifically the quality of being truly seen and truly met. Voice plays a role that cannot be overstated, and it operates in ways that are partly conscious and partly ancient and automatic. Because the human voice is one of the richest channels of emotional information that exists, carrying data about arousal state and mood and intention and safety in its pitch and pace and rhythm and warmth. And babies are tuned to this channel with extraordinary sensitivity. They can detect emotional states in a voice before they understand a single word of the language being spoken. They respond to the rhythm and melody of speech in ways that directly influence their own nervous system state, and the voices that reliably carry warmth, that rise and fall with engagement, that match their tone to the baby's emotional state rather than running on a fixed script. Those voices become, over time, one of the primary signals the baby's brain associates with coming back to calm. There is also the question of play, which turns out to be a far more serious business than most adults realize, because the way a person plays with a baby, whether they follow the baby's lead or impose their own agenda, whether they are sensitive to when the baby is done or push past the moment of overstimulation, whether they can hold the playful tension of a moment without anxiety and then release it into laughter. All of this is being read and filed by the baby's nervous system as data about who this person is, whether they can be trusted to track the baby's experience, whether being with them feels expansive or constricting, safe or uncertain. And the people who are brilliant at following the baby's lead in play, who can be fully present and delighted and responsive without needing the baby to perform or produce anything, are often exactly the people that babies reach for with the most unguarded, whole-body joy. Here is the second twist, and it changes the picture in a way that is both humbling and deeply reassuring. Attachment research has consistently shown that babies can form strong, secure attachment bonds with multiple people simultaneously, and that these bonds are not ranked in a simple hierarchy where number 1 cancels out numbers 2 and 3. Rather, the baby builds what researchers call an attachment hierarchy, a network of trusted people, each of whom serves a slightly different function and provides a slightly different quality of safety. And the existence of this network is not a sign of divided loyalty or insufficient bonding. It is a sign of a thriving, socially rich, developmentally healthy baby who has been given the gift of multiple sources of security. What this means is that the grandparent who swoops in on weekends and plays with wild, joyful abandon has a real and important place in the baby's attachment network, even if they are not the primary caregiver. That the father who does the bath time routine every night has a distinct and irreplaceable role, even if the baby also reaches urgently for the mother when distressed. That the childcare worker who is genuinely warm and attuned during the day is contributing something real to the baby's internal sense of the world as a safe place, even though they are not a family member. And every person in that network is helping to build something that will outlast infancy by decades, which is the baby's working model of what relationships are. Whether people can be trusted, whether asking for help will be met with a response, whether love is reliable or fragile or conditional. Daniel Siegel, the clinical professor of psychiatry at UCLA, whose work on interpersonal neurobiology has shaped a generation of thinking about child development, describes the early attachment relationships as the template from which the brain builds its model of all future relationships. Not a cage, not a destiny, but a working template, a first draft that can be revised and expanded by later experience, but that shapes the default settings of the social brain in ways that echo through an entire lifetime. The baby who consistently experiences certain people as safe and responsive and emotionally present develops what attachment researchers call a secure base, an internal sense of stability that allows them to move outward into the world, to explore, to take risks, to tolerate the discomfort of the unfamiliar, because they carry the felt sense of that secure base inside them wherever they go. A neural echo of the person whose arrival once changed everything in the room, whose arms once meant that the storm was over, whose voice once reached across the dark and said without words, "You are not alone. I am here. Everything that is too big for you to carry alone, we will carry together." What all of this reveals, when you step back and see it whole, is that the fierce, apparently irrational, completely non-negotiable love that a baby develops for certain people is not random and not mysterious in the way that superstition is mysterious. It is the output of one of the most sophisticated evaluation systems that evolution has ever produced, a system that is running continuously from the earliest weeks of life, gathering data across every sense, tracking every response, measuring every moment of attunement and every moment of absence, and building, out of all of that raw experience, a precise and deeply felt answer to the most important question a baby can ask. Who in this world will keep me safe? And the people the baby chooses with that reaching, that turning, that full body lighting up of recognition and relief, they are not just the people the baby loves, they are the people who answered the question correctly, over and over again, in the language that matters, which is not words but presence, not promises but response, not love declared, but love demonstrated in the 10,000 small, unremarkable, absolutely irreplaceable moments of being there. So, if a baby has ever lit up for you, if a small face has ever searched the room, and then found yours and gone still with something that looked like peace, know what that means, know the weight of it, know that you have been chosen by one of the most honest and undeceivable judges of human character that exists, a being with no agenda and no politeness and no reason to pretend, a being who simply knows in the oldest and most trustworthy part of their brain that you are safe, and that knowing, that wordless, bone-deep, completely certain knowing, is one of the most extraordinary things one human being can offer another. Subscribe for more Mind Secrets.